Ha, ha, ha,
Uh, some of the
Rob is muted.
Yeah.
Rob, you're not talking.
no
Everyone's
Rob
commenting
audio.
that you're muted. Ha! So,
Do
guys,
over,
you can
do
hear me
over.
while Rob figures out. The whole reason that we're late is Rob was trying to like do something with the audio, and I have no idea what's going on.
Now I think he made it worse.
Quiet flex.
A Rob photo is worth 1,000
job, Rob.
words, you know?
We literally only have Rob on the podcast to be the fucking engineer. Like, he's literally the foundation of the entire thing. His library,
That's what Pete said.
BrotoGP.
Yeah.
I can hear you fine.
Yeah, the sound of silence. Who's Denise?
This
Am I
is
Denise?
amazing.
Ah.
This is amazing.
Oh, man.
Dream. All right. I think that one's going to do it.
Did it work, people? Did it work?
Right. Best podcast episode ever so far.
This is the silent episode. We're just going to start just
I like, yeah, exactly. The best part
language.
Is 10 seconds, right?
All right. Now they can hear me.
There we go.
Right.
Yeah, no, it was totally screwed with the software. There was a mute button clicked over here. This is not good. This is not good. All right, a little bit of beer to wash that one away.
We'll start fresh.
Yeah, we're starting fresh.
They heard nothing.
Let's start with my outline once again. So this is episode number 140. I can't believe we've made it so far. That is so many episodes. Of course, we're going to talk about Fabio's amazing performances. If you haven't read the YouTube title yet, Marquez did what? They showed up. That's what happened. Of course, we're going to talk about coronavirus in MotoGP because that is coming back. And we're probably going to get to some Americans in international racing, specifically prototype racing, because Joe Roberts, some bad news from him and some good news. And then we have more Americans. I don't think we're going to cover World Superbike. We'll probably save that for like a World Superbike closing episode in a week or two.
Or the off season. I mean, it's right around the corner anyway for all the motorsport.
We still have 4 rounds to go.
Not really. I was looking it up today, and it's literally the final round of GP isn't till November 22nd. Like,
that's right around the corner.
There's no off. That's more than a month. That's not around the corner.
Oh my god, you guys!
I have a buddy that says every year Christmas is right around the corner, and he starts saying it in January. And it's true. Christmas is right around the corner. Thankfully, I don't think we're gonna don't have to go visit family as much, all that random shit. Whatever. Before we get into all of that.
But if you did go visit family in the winter, in Christmas, and it's a white Christmas. 2020 ends with a beautiful whiteout Christmas, and you're driving to your grandma and grandpa's. You've got a hot pie in your lap, apple pie. You're ready to, or no, that's a pumpkin pie. You're bringing it. You're ready to go, but you also got the apple pie because only weirdos like pumpkin pie, and the actual cool people have the apple pie with the ice cream you're going to eat after the turkey or the ham. But all of a sudden, the snow comes coming down, and it's a straight up blizzard. And that black ice pops up out of nowhere, and you hit the brakes, but you do not stop. And but you narrowly avoid an accident because you, my friends, are a responsible driver who follows exactly 4 seconds behind the car in front of you.
That's so far.
You know who isn't?
Too far, actually.
You know who isn't? The guy next to you who rear ends you from the back and then attempts to leave right away. You get his driver's license, or just you get his license plate, you get the make and model of his car, but you need to sue for damages. Who do you call when you need to sue for damages? When this dastardly devil ruins your Christmas, your grandma's in tears. The apple pie is smeared all over the place. The melting ice cream on the side of the window.
No.
You call Writer's Law with a Z.com. You call Lawyer Rob and you say, Lawyer Rob, I need a Christmas miracle. And he says, I got you because I will not accept any payment unless I get your damages, get your win, get the money for you, and then, like a true Christmas miracle, 2020 is saved.
Wow. I feel like Writer's Law owes you a pie for that one.
That sounds like that. That's like the holiday edition of our sponsorship script.
So my unhealthy COVID hobby that I've taken out this year, everyone's is I buy pies constantly, and so does my friend Kalani, and we literally send each other pictures of the pie. Like apple pie. The best one I've had is the blackberry apple, but all different kinds of pie, and we're just constantly sending each other pictures of the pie we got.
Oh man, pie! But I would legit take a pie over cake any day.
Right.
That's just me.
Everything about pie is probably better than cake.
Yeah,
but of course,
sure.
Writer's Law, they're California motorcycle accident injury lawyers.
Correct.
And even if you're not in the state of California, especially if you're maybe in Pennsylvania, don't quote me on that one. But give them a call. They can offer you legal advice. They can go for you. They can be on your side in the courtroom should you need it. And like Kev already said, they don't take payment unless they're able to recover some damages for you.
They won't take a slice of pie until you do.
Right, and if you're in California, chances are it's a fair trade, organic, locally grown pie that was made by artisan bakers, right? Yeah. That gluten-free by artisan bakers, single origin, small batch. That pie was like $89.
You just lost everyone.
That's accurate. Yeah.
You just lost everyone
Whole
with the
Foods can't even sell that shit.
No, all pies must have gluten. I don't know what you're talking about here.
Yeah,
all right. Yeah. No, pies must have gluten. I did. I'm pretty sure I sent both of you a picture of it. I did have 2 slices of pie and 2 scoops of ice cream for lunch the other day. Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
It was a weekend leftover pie.
Tell me that wasn't the first thing you spent your money on.
Rob has a cream pie. That guy wins. What do I have to send Christian? That guy wins.
Send him a slice of Rob's cream pie. Ba-dum.
Ooh.
Ooh. Gross.
Terrible. All right, let's actually get to some motorcycle racing. So Le Mans, the big surprise at Le Mans for me, of course, was the fact that it rained on the grid. And then there was wet Friday, so the people that actually went out on track got good practice and good setup time, and the ones that kind of maybe pussyfooted around or didn't find a good feeling and didn't work that hard to find one might have had a much more difficult time in the surprisingly wet race. So we got to jump straight to Fabio. I mean, what were your opinions about his performance there?
I'll take it away first because I got to look up how he finished on Le Mans. I already forgot.
Oh, you want me to talk? But I don't talk that much on these episodes or lead or talk about who. I mean, he had just skipped the practice, don't want to get hurt, or the practice, the tests at Estoril and all that. And I think that was definitely a damage limitation round. This is obviously 2020. The year's kind of wild. Anyone is kind of in the hunt for it. I think they said there's 16 different podium. People have had 60 different people have had a podium this year. Other than a handful of people, no one's had more than 2, except for a couple guys. And so I think damage limitation, one thing was good. The following race kind of was like, oh, fuck, you kind of choking a little bit now, dog. By that time I was like, hey, you know what? He still increased his title lead. He did what he had to do at the time, which was actually increase his title lead by putting, Maverick between him and Mir. And so I was like, okay, it wasn't obviously a showing, but, to finish first, you got to first finish, the classic mantra, the classic cliche. And he puts a guy between him and Mir, and he's able to do a small pad on his points lead. I thought at the time it was pretty decent damage limitations. Obviously, it turns out, a week later, he probably should have tried to go more and put a little more space between. But at the time, I was like, not so bad, considering what the rest of the Yamahas were doing.
Yeah, I mean, it really is the only thing I can say about Le Mans. It's crazy how the Fabio, Maverick, and Mir were battling like not even mid-pack, and then somehow Andrea Dovizioso is still finished better than them. It's bonkers for me. I don't know what to make of it, to be honest.
I mean, it's just more of 2020. I mean, yeah, Kev, I actually hadn't really thought about it that way. You're right. If it wasn't for Aragon 1 and the results of that race, then maybe I probably would have a different opinion about Le Mans. Like if we had recorded this right after Le Mans, it'd be like, oh, okay,
Right.
he didn't crash. I mean, Franco obviously didn't have the race that he wanted. And
Neither did Valentino.
yeah, neither did Valentino.
Come to find out, loss of taste, smell, and front end feel are symptoms of COVID. I can't take credit for that joke. That's my man Remy sent me that joke in that morning, and I was like, oh, when we found out that he had it, he was on it. Like 2 seconds in, Rossi has COVID, and he's like, I got jokes on jokes.
So much sympathy.
For having COVID?
Yeah, with the jokes.
Oh, with the jokes. All right. Yeah, we'll get to COVID a little bit later.
Yeah.
I mean,
we'll get to Steve a little bit later.
Oh, yes. I almost feel bad for Steve that we somehow blamed or called that the Steve, at least if you're in the Facebook army.
I don't. I'm happy we got a scapegoat, yo.
Terrible. Yeah, so I mean, Fabio finished 9th, Maverick in 10th, and Joan Mir in 11th. I actually thought that Mir was going to get them both because it seemed like he was gaining a little bit, but in the last couple of laps, if I'm not mistaken, Fabio actually passed both of them back.
Right.
For some, as Kev put it, some championship extending points. I mean, it was we probably shouldn't talk too much about Fabio's performance there because there was a lot more to go on. That was more surprising. So, so who do you want to jump into next? You want to go for like a KTM in the wet, a Marquez performance, or a second win for a Ducati factory rider?
I mean, I thought Petrucci winning is definitely the story, right? Because the first thing I thought was Danilo Petrucci has as many wins as Ben Spies and Jack Miller combined. And it's like when you put it that way, you kind of, you know what I mean? Like, oh yeah, like that fucking guy came up through super stock, and then like that guy was on CRTs, and Casey Stoner was saying like, I'm going to retire because of CRTs, and now he's a multi-time like Ducati winner. You know what I mean? Like if you go back to that time period when Casey Stoner was saying that about CRTs, like they lost their shit if Valentino got a podium, right? And it's like, you know what I mean? Like that same time period. And now to like you fast forward years ahead, and the guy who like really shouldn't even be on the grid has multiple wins. And it also just kind of reminds me with the Chaz Davies news and all that like Ducati has gotten rid of they're getting rid of 3 factory riders this year who've all won this season.
Yeah, I mean,
Dovi's out, Petrucci's out, and Davies is out. They've all won races. Like, right. And then they're replacing them. Like, you look at who's replacing Petrucci is like someone with no wins who's crashed out of the last race.
If you're a Ducati rider, like, how can you possibly win against Ducati? Because clearly winning championships a la Stoner or a championship doesn't get you to keep the job. Winning races doesn't get you to keep the job a la Stoner, a la Lorenzo, a la Petrux, even Iannone. How do you get to keep a job as a Ducati rider? Because even putting in the time like Dovizioso doesn't guarantee you longevity with them.
I would say the championship, I think the championship is only worth like a year or two, right? Like, you gotta, right. If you did a Polo Marquez, they would keep you forever. Marc Marquez, now that we're going to talk about the other one. But I don't know, Kev, go for it.
I'm just saying, like, that's obviously a little bit off from the race topic. We're talking like the whole meta of Ducati's like corporate culture in general. But to go back to Petrucci for a minute, I also think that was kind of cool because it really validated that Mugello win, right? Like that was a win in the dry, and then he goes and when all the when he's down and out, he's able to get to the front when he has his best chance to get a second win. And for me, it really kind of solidified that he wasn't a flash in the pan. Like when that guy is in good, like when he's on form, he's a potential race winner. He's not just like a potential top 5. Like we can even say that about Miller. Like when he's on form, he might get a podium. Maybe he's going to get some top 5s. I know he's had a lot of bad luck with the bike and with tear-offs and the motor, but like this is 2020 and like Miller's got 2 podiums and he's kind of been nowhere for a while now. Petrucci's, in 2020 when push came to shove, he was able to seal that deal and get a win. Wins over multiple seasons is not something a lot of guys have. Usually if you can catch lightning in a bottle, you get it for a second. But I mean, even Mir, the chosen one for Suzuki doesn't have a win. And now we're talking about whether he might win the title with no wins. And here's Petrucci taking the craziest road ever to finally get to factory Ducati, and he's got multiple wins now. I think it's rad, personally. Like I was so stoked when he won, but it's also kind of a drag. Like what he's getting now, he's going to to Tech 3 fucking KTM. Like that. Like 2 years ago, we're like, oh my god, that's gonna be the worst team ever. Now they got a multi-time winner going to that team.
I thought the way that Petrucci won the race was convincing as well, right? It wasn't. I believe he might have actually led every single lap. It was so long ago. It was like 847 days ago in 2020 that I can't even remember.
It was like 9 days ago, by the way. It was like 9 days ago, and then 2020 is like it was fucking 3 months ago.
Yeah. But that's the kind of race win to me. That's not like, oh, you just are a random race, like a wet professional or an amazing rider in the wet, and that's what you do, right? He put his head down. He kept up with the pressure from all the other racers that were behind him, but didn't do something crazy. Didn't try and pull out really fast in front and burn up the tires. And he didn't make any mistakes. So.
Yeah, and I guess in the same weird way, to go back to that sort of meta we were talking with corporate culture, was like it was after he like knew he'd been sacked. It was just an in your face. It was like, see, like, I am valuable. I am worth it. I am like a tip of the spear kind of guy. I kind of like that it happened after the fact. And you kind of saw that Dovi was kind of happy. Now, obviously, since then, because that was 8 months ago, not 8 days ago. And now they're blood enemies. But at the time, they were, as close as kin could be. And you could see Dovi was almost a little stoked, too. Like, damn, both of us are out and we both fucking snag wins.
I mean, wait, didn't Dovizioso do exactly the same thing? Committed to being out and then won the race?
Right. Uh-huh.
Yeah. That's perfect. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. All right. Moving on. We spent way too much time on the first race the last time we did a double. So let's get to the rest of the podium. I don't really want to talk about Pol Espargaro. Pol Espargaro sucks. I'm going to make that my thing. Marquez showed up in the wet race and put it on the box, and it wasn't Marc Marquez.
What?
I know. I would like.
Imagine being the grid, right, and seeing that every lap on your pit board, Marquez, like, what the heck is going on here? It's nuts.
I mean, he's still really far down in the championship. It's still a terrible year for a Repsol bike, but to finally. He surpassed my expectations. I expected him to be in the bottom 5 positions in the championship for the entire season. I did expect him to get better throughout the year, but not to go from like barely top 10 performance to second place overnight just because it rained.
And look, before the back-to-back podiums, I was already surprised that dude hasn't crashed out of a race yet, right? He's finished every single time. And then I don't know if you recall, but I have a bet going on with a friend where Brad Binder versus Alex Marquez. As soon as Binder won, I was ready to give my $10 to her. But now they're literally tied in points. I'm like, whoa, this shit is still alive.
Going to Aragon again.
Yeah, I had no idea. Okay, all right. So I was reluctant at first to root for Alex Marquez, but yeah. I'm on board right now. I want the $10.
It goes to the old adage that you like when Rob was saying about how he's finished every race, right? And expecting, but he's been consistently finishing. It's like the whole adage that you can tell a fast rider, you can get a fast rider to stop crashing, but you can't make a slow rider fast. But in Alex Marquez's case, you can just consistently give him the best fucking bike and materials and most money spent to eventually get him fast. It's like it's right. Like they did that in Moto 3, eventually in Moto 2, it takes him forever, and then in MotoGP, now that Marc's out, and I think going to be out much longer than anyone anticipates, except exactly how long we anticipated, based on some more videos that have popped up. Suddenly he gets that new shock that we're hearing a lot about with Öhlins, and he's on the trot now. But like suddenly, okay, we actually have to make this bike pretty decent because we don't know when Marc is actually coming back.
Yeah,
it's so like the recipient of actual investment.
Yeah, it seems like Alex and his crew definitely are in the midst of cracking the code, and I'm actually, for one, glad for that because the moment that they announced that Alex was going to was going to take the second Repsol Honda, I thought actually that was a disservice to Alex Marquez. That was just way too much to put on him in the spotlight. But I got to say, I mean, it seems like the kid took that challenge and is actually showing up.
The timing to me just gets me. I mean, maybe there is something there with the new Öhlins shock that Kev just brought up, but to completely transform the performance so much overnight.
If Lorenzo can win back-to-back because of a fucking tank pad, all right, no Öhlins rear shock will do wonders.
Is more important than a tank pad. Yes, that's a very good point. Can cut. I mean, I guess that shows you what is going on in GP this year, especially, right? The field is so close together that he hasn't been finishing races that far back time-wise.
Right.
They've just been low positions. I mean, if I go back, I could go back to his like worst finish, 17th in Misano. I mean, here, we'll find it and see how far back he actually was. Nope. No, 19th. Oh, that's qualifying. Wrong part. Let's do it. 22 seconds back is 17th position. I remember years ago when 22 seconds back would get you third.
Right. Oh yeah, 2008,
Yeah,
2009, 20 seconds back, you're in the podium hunt.
Yeah. So now that's where 17th. So you get an Öhlins rear shock, you cut half second a lap. You're now 10 seconds back.
I mean, and the thing about Alex Marquez, I guess I would say is, and I know we'll talk about more after we talk about the next race, but he keeps plugging away.
Mm-hmm.
Like he doesn't maybe that was the breakthrough he needed. We saw how he followed it up to give him some confidence, to build some resilience, and give him like a CIAM, worthy of being here for this ride. It's like a sort of self boost, but he does keep plugging away. He did it in Moto 3, Moto 2. You saw in Moto 2, he was pretty terrible. Like most people were in Moto 2 his first year. Then he won some races, and then he had that whole winless season, and then he finally kept plugging away. What's the one laughing at? And he got the title.
Yeah, I guess that's what it is. Is all the pieces need to fall into place for him. Right, like Moto 2, they change the tires constantly. Like the team puts it together for him, and things finally fall into place. Like here in GP, he gets a new shock. Thankfully, the entire season he hasn't had the pressure of like worrying about next year's contract because he's already knows that he's not going to be at Repsol next year. So it's just, I mean, to me, he's kind of taken the Taka approach because Taka's doing the exact same thing. Plugging away, getting those solid results. I mean, Taka does have the pressure of still not having an HRC contract, if I'm not mistaken, or at least not an announced one, and still fighting for his factory like current year ride for next year, current year machine, I should say.
Yeah, I mean, you could say for Alex Marquez, like obviously getting demoted to LCR is not ideal, but you can plan around non-ideal as long as it's a concrete plan. Like that's sort of the whole like problem with lockdowns with COVID, right? Is that like it's just a constantly shifting goalpost. Like because there's not a long, they don't say like, okay, we're going to open up for 4 weeks and then see what happens and reevaluate. A lot of times they'll open up, but they'll just pull right back. And I'm not saying there should or shouldn't be lockdowns. I just mean we talk about how it's difficult to. You can plan around bad if you have some kind of concrete idea of what that bad is and how long it'll last. Like he knows he's going to LCR, but he knows he has a ride. He knows he's probably going to have a factory bike at LCR, especially if he shows up here and does well and sort of meets, passes expectations. what's interesting about Alex Marquez is he's gonna have to earn in a weird way, he has to earn the Repsol ride twice. The first time he has to earn it through like optics. Like he got given it to him, but no one thought he earned it. This year he's earning the ride he already has in like the optics and the view and the branding of GP. Then he's going to get demoted, and obviously he's going to try to re-earn that ride like that, and he probably will too, is my guess. Like, but it's funny how he's going to have to sort of pseudo double earn the ride, even though he's already gotten it. Like that, this whole year is just proving that he should have had it, and then he's still going to lose it. And then he has to prove it again to like take the next step and move forward. It's kind of wild.
Depending on how the last 5 races go, he may not have to earn it the second time around. I mean, he's still probably going to have to do his time with LCR. But, like for me where I'm sitting now, I mean, I suppose I could say, yeah, he's definitely earned a seat now that, okay, he's going to have to go to LCR next year. But I'm probably already looking forward to him going back to Repsol Honda just by the merits of what he's done so far this season.
Two people in the chat. One just said if he keeps improving, he'll have the Repsol back in 2023. And another person responded, MotoGP won't exist in 2023.
Who is that? That's such Debbie Downer. Get him out of the chat.
Kick him out. It was a little ways up there. Don't kick him out. I mean, I don't agree, Dennis, that he can win back the Repsol ride already, just because the way that we've seen GP with contracts and stuff, more stuff seems to be up in the air every single year. And there's less like signing people 3 years out.
Who does he need to do better than to really prove it? Paul, who is doing pretty good. Like we're talking about, dude's got 2 podiums, right? Alex Marquez, and he deserves a Repsol ride. How many podiums does Paul have right now?
3.
Right.
Yep. So he's got one more to go. But he's got to do that. He's got to do that again like for the next 2 years, and then he'll get the right, or at least probably just for next year, right? Because they'll sign a 2023 contract like really, really early in 2020.
And that really,
I was gonna say, it's interesting depending on how the next 5 races go, because if Alex actually starts sucking at LCR, maybe it's not Alex. Maybe it's
if
a
Alex
team.
starts sucking, title of Rob 68.
That's the worst one ever.
title of Rob 68.
No.
Also,
that's
title
also,
of Rob Sexton.
The bootleg.
Yeah, exactly.
Someone said Steve Days had entered the chat.
Right, that'd be hilarious.
That would be great. Oh wait, I got distracted. Where were we?
I mean, just talking about Alex Marquez and not to jump forward to Aragon, but what's interesting about Alex Marquez is like, just fucking let it happen, announcers. Just let it happen. The first thing that we saw after he gets his podium was, see, he deserves the ride. He earned it. What a fantastic podium. The story of the race and all of these things, not Petrucci winning, right? Or the next race, like all this. They literally can't just let it happen. You're like, stop already. Like, so many messages I got where I was like, I was kind of rooting for Alex. And I'm like, I know, me too, right? Like, I was sort of like, kind of cool, like he's going to get out of his brother's shadow when his brother's not there. He's looking pretty good. He's plugging away. He's kind of the working man. Like, he gets a lot of crap because of everything he's been given, but he's just working his ass off. And I was like low-key rooting for it. But you literally can't have a race that a Marquez is doing good at and have the announcers and talk about anything else. They only talk about that. And then the whole coverage afterwards, it's like, dude, are you trying to make me not like you? Like, it's literally like when you, back in the day when you could buy a tape or a CD and you'd buy like the single and then the B side would be super cool. And you'd be like, oh fuck, that B side's pretty cool. And then you'd feel like you were cool on the in crowd. You'd be like indie kid. You knew about the cool B side. And then some person who doesn't even know the band, they're just talking about it constantly because they heard it once. They won't stop talking. They ruin it for everyone, right? Fucking Sully knows what I'm talking about. And
Alex
like,
Marquez is the B side?
Right. It's just like there was.
Yeah.
I was finally like kind of rooting for him and thinking, "Fuck, this would be hilarious if this kid won after all of this bullshit." And he's going to get demoted. He's going to be the third rider to lose their ride this year, despite having a win in the season. And they literally can. They can't help themselves. The marketing machine has to shove it down our throats. It's just like, God damn, man, just let it organically happen. Just let it happen by word of mouth. Let people message each other. Be like, I was kind of rooting for Alex Marquez. Oh shit, me too. You like that? We're all good. It's like a fun time. Like, I could not believe, like, it's the same thing because it's like fucking MotoGP and Dorna starting the MotoGP memes group on Facebook.
No.
They started it. They
No.
just started it.
No.
The chat is gonna blow up when I talk about this. So they
Wow.
started, and it's just called the MotoGP memes group.
Wow.
Like what? And you cannot corporatize like the underdog.
Man.
Like they're gonna start a meme page, and then they're gonna have. I bet you anything they're gonna. It's the next evolution of Dovey on Cloud 9 and all of that bullshit. It's so hollow, and this like the forcing Alex Marquez and talking about like his brother and everything. Like let him be his own person. I don't even need to see Alex Marquez. We're watching him race. Guess what? Like every other rider on the grid, I don't need to see his dad and wonder what his dad thinks. He's a grown-ass man. Like, it's great. Trust me, your dad should support you, and the best fathers in the world are the ones who support and love their kids for who they are and what they do, and they want to be a part of it. But, like, I don't need to see what fucking Julian Marquez thinks about every turn of Alex Marquez.
The announcers don't need to be on a first-name basis with my dad.
Right. Correct.
Like they should, if they show your dad every now and again because something crazy happens, great. He was there at the track for you. He was supporting you. But to be on a first name basis.
Shout out to LeVar Ball. Exactly.
Is Kevin's rant about the announcers like the cool BrotoGP B side? Or is that just the in your face A side?
That's just BrotoGP
no, that's
being
like literally
BrotoGP.
part of our shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean that was what it started. If people like, we're 140, right? We talk episode 140 doing this forever. Like back in the day, it wasn't quite. I had it like the whole rant thing and the like Kevin character and all that started when they were just freaking out about people booing Marquez and all of that stuff. It was at the time when Brexit was kind of like. Now it's like a total. I'm not going to get into the politics of it. Obviously, that's a total disaster. But at the time, it was obvious that journalism and coverage of events were attempting to basically tell you how to feel, and so it was the pushback from that. Just like you said earlier about like not liking something just because someone else does like it, but like that's when the whole rant thing started. So that's kind of our meta now is just bitching about it being forced on our throats. Like I wanted to root for Alex Marquez. I had to like turn off. Like even for example, go to BT Sport, right? Like that one of the biggest English media. Their Twitter page is they have a poll, and the poll is who was the best ride of Aragon, and it's just a big picture of Alex Marquez.
See, guys, this is why you watch live because you're so groggy at 5 a.m. Shit's not even going into your ears. You're just looking at the visuals. So all the shit that the announcers are saying, they're not even registering to you. This is why you watch live.
I'm not willing to make that sacrifice. No, I can't. Kev can't watch it live then because he needs to hear the announcers that come up with new material.
Correct. Yeah, it's research.
Get the transcript, all right? Order the transcript after the fact.
I'm going to round out the Alex Marquez, at least at Le Mans point, with one thing. And this actually goes to Aragon too. I like that he got on the podium first in the rain because I feel like it was just a little intro to Alex Marquez on the podium.
It was a great precursor, right?
Yeah. I had a small like sour taste in my mouth with the Aragon Drive podium. I was like, but by the like early on when it seemed like he was going to be doing something amazing in the race. But then by the time he actually made it on the podium, I was like, yeah, all right, I can get on board with this. I mean, especially because it's 2020. It's freaking ridiculous, right? He's in 12th and he has 2 second places. That doesn't happen. Petrucci is in 13th with a win and Pecco is in 16th with a podium. The only person in the top 16 of the championship that doesn't have a podium is Taka.
Amazing. Miguel Oliveira has a win.
Yep.
This seems crazy. But I do think it was kind of cool how you're saying it was like an intro, like, oh, it kind of like wetted the palate a little bit, right? Like it got us ready.
Pun intended.
But
Yeah, exactly. Got us kind of ready for Aragon, which obviously what I like is the way he got that podium at Aragon too, like just coming from so deep in the field and just looking like a man on the mission. I mean, I wanted him to win. I really did. Like
you wouldn't put an asterisk to that, right?
No,
like
of
you
course
would in
not.
Le Mans. It was like straight up.
Well, and it wasn't like I
Both
put
of
an
them.
asterisk or was like talking like, oh, his Le Mans doesn't count. The Le Mans second, obviously they count, but I was like, hey, I'm not sold that he's turned the corner yet. That suddenly he's gonna be the fucking champion. He's the heir apparent. Like what? Like again, not to harp on Jack Miller, but Jack Miller won a race convincingly like 90 years ago and hasn't followed up. So I'm like, yo, you got to give me like. A race, you got to give me more than that, which he did. But of course, after he did, and I post about how I was actually excited for Alex and it was really interesting and it kind of made me be more of a fan. But every dipshit who hates me, who really wishes like and really wants me to be wrong, goes to my post about Le Mans, like where I'm not convinced. Because my favorite thing about all those fucking trolls online is like the number one thing they want to do when something happens is go talk about my opinion because no one gives a fuck about your opinion. Think about this. I could be absolutely 100% wrong and more people care than your fucking idiot post that hasn't been posted in like 4 years, but you jump on Twitter and be like, Kevin was wrong.
Have you're internet famous. I actually had someone bring my dad's wife actually called me internet famous the other day.
A guy was like, I met Rob's mom.
Oh, no, that's what it was.
Me.
No, it was my mom that said I was internet famous. I'm sorry. Yeah. Mixing out the oh god, what was his handle on Barf? It was like AFM 359 or something, which is a very descriptive handle.
Hey,
I didn't get his name. What'd you say, Kev?
So I said, don't dox anyone on Barf now.
That's good point.
Literally, a guy sent me a message like, I just met Rob's mom. And I was like, this is a really weird conversation. I haven't even met Rob's mom. But let's talk about it. What happened? Yeah, it was like
she was at Thunder Hill with her husband doing a track day. The guy that met my mom, unfortunately, he crashed his Aprilia at the track. Yeah, sad times. I hope him and his bike are doing good.
Wow, I gotta say, Rob, your mom's not a cheap date. But
oh no.
I think she knows. I think she puts tire warmers on. So yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
All right. Let's.
Luckily, Jen, if you ever saw Dennis in person, he'd be hella afraid to say hi to you too, because Dennis, weirdly, is the shyest person on the planet Earth.
Only with other men.
Dennis is so hilariously shy. It never ceases to entertain me. Like how like he like shuts down a little bit. He hits full introvert in person. It's pretty funny.
But if he's behind a camera, he'll shove it in anyone's face.
Oh, for sure. Absolutely.
Absolutely. You're gonna break me with that comment.
I know.
I'm gonna break. Like I'm gonna short circuit.
All right, let's move on to Aragon, or rather the interim between Le Mans and Aragon, the very short number of days in which Valentino Rossi caught coronavirus.
Yeah,
which, and
it had to happen.
Someone
can you call it a silver lining to say that I'm only glad that he's not fighting for the championship? Because it still feels kind of wrong to say that.
I mean, we saw Yamaha's engine had an outbreak in the engineering department, and then Valentino got it. We saw that Jorge Martin had gotten it, but you see, like, in that Jorge Martin seems to be an isolated case, so we didn't have an explosion afterwards. But obviously, Yamaha appears to be having something going on because Yamaha had their engineers have it, Valentino has it, and now a Michelin Tech also has it. That came out today. So, what are you looking at, Rob? You look crazy.
Software's doing funny things. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Can you guys hear me? So to retread, Yamaha's engineering team had an outbreak, and then Rossi had an outbreak. Uchiho has it, and a Michelin tire tech now has it too. It sucks, but I have to say, I'm surprised it took this long. There's no, like, you see that in Paris, they're shutting stuff back down again. France was having a mass. I thought for sure by now we would have had a canceled round due to COVID rising cases in different places, but I definitely. I'm bummed that he got it. I'm sure he's going to be fine. He has no comorbidities. He's not in the high risk group. He obviously is, quite wealthy and can receive, fantastic medical care and all of that stuff. But it's not surprising to me at all that he got it. I'm actually surprised it took this long for a quote unquote outbreak to actually happen within the paddock. They travel too much into too many high risk areas.
Yeah, and the reason that I made a commentary about him not fighting for the title is because I agree. I mean, I'm hoping for the best for him, but I actually think he'll be okay. I mean, the precedence that has been set in F1, we did have a driver test, positive for COVID, but the protocols that are in place took care of it. And now that, racer Sergio Perez has been racing just fine, and I'm pretty sure the same can be said about Valentino Rossi, in a matter of time.
He did report that he had some symptoms, kind of just the minor ones, which I don't know if that was the case for the other athletes that I've seen that have had it. I mean, no one needs to disclose that information if they don't want to, so we might not have heard the whole story with everyone. But like I've said, access to amazing medical care, the resources to be able to take advantage of it, and a healthy person, especially. Just a very healthy person being a professional athlete. So I'm not in any way worried about his health. Someone in the chat earlier said that they felt bad for not really missing him at the round,
including me.
You said agreed there?
I was one of them, because I said was that, I've been saying it for years and it's not a knock on Rossi. At least I don't think it's a knock on Rossi, but I have been waiting for a post-Rossi era.
Rossi has given us the post-Rossi era during the Rossi era.
Right.
Like, so one of the things that I guess bugs me that I'm glad didn't happen, that happened like with Stoner, right? Like, everyone still acts like Stoner could show up and win a race. Stoner probably couldn't even qualify. Let's be real. He's that far removed. But if you retire on top, which is for you personally really good, it can occasionally do a disservice to the sport in general, or the paddock in general. You see, like, Stoner retires and people act like Stoner could still win the championship or this and that. And imagine if Valentino retired on top, it would, in a weird way, delegitimize more so. We talk about COVID in 2020, people are arguing about whether these championships are legitimate, even though I would argue they're more legitimate. The 2020 championship is worth more than any other championship. The ability to stick it out and ride this out and actually seal the deal and win the championship with all of this stress, like, that championship is worth more than the 2019 or 2018 championship, in my opinion. But Valentino, as his slow fade, while being kind of painful to watch, is normalizing the next generation. It's normalizing the handoff of talent and of prestige to the new generation far more than it would have been if he just bounced. I'd love to see him win a race, get some podiums, and finish out, his SRT campaign on top. But I didn't miss him either, and that's actually a good thing. We shouldn't have sports where we're missing people. Like, every generation should be better than the generation before, just like in every other sport. Like every other sport, you should be so we all stand on the shoulders of giants, right? And you should be building on the next one. And so if Valentino had left when we all thought he was still the best in the world, that kind of would have done a disservice. I do think the slow fade, but with some flashes of brilliance, is exactly what we needed.
I think I can agree with you. What I don't want to see is, him effectively overstaying his welcome. I mean, if anybody does have a long welcome, it would be Rossi. But there is a point where, okay, now you're overstaying your welcome. Like taking satellite rides. I mean, okay, so he's gonna be in Petronas, but that's like still a good seat. But I'm saying, if he keeps persisting and basically taking up seats, that's when you start overstaying your welcome. And I hope that it doesn't get to that point with Rossi, because he's better than that.
And the main reason that you did miss, Valentino, is because much bigger news happened on the feed. You would think Valentino being on the race would be the biggest thing you heard all week, but no, my friends. The biggest thing, actually, the greatest news of the weekend, was not Mir being the most consistent rider officially and leading the championship. It was not Fabio falling from pole to like 93rd place. It was not Alex Marquez getting his second podium legitimized first one, but it was that the BrotoGP logo exploded on the fan wall, live on television in
your
living
face.
color for all the world to see. Shlabam! That was actually pretty amazing, I have to say. Like, that popped up and I was like, oh shit. And for some reason there was like a dick next to it or something. Like, look, there's like a thumb, or I don't know what's going on, but there was like, it was our podcast logo, the old blue background with the Danny Pedrosa 8-bit, and then like right next to it was like someone's thumb. It was pretty sweet. I was pretty stoked on that. So John Smith, there you go. We talking about it.
It was the second logo BrotoGP ever had. The first one, I doubt anyone ever remembers Cal Banana. It might come back at some point, maybe on a shirt.
Yes.
But that was really cool to see. Someone was talking about it for the round before at Le Mans, and like, oh, what shirt should I wear? And then I couldn't find it, like, because 50% of the people on the feed were wearing black shirts. They didn't show it long enough. And then when that one popped up, it definitely made my day.
It just made I was stoked because, like, Jen, she's a moderator in our group, and she has her own little page. She does MotoGP Sillies, which is quite wholesome if you are not feeling the shit cock balls talk that BrotoGP does. You can go there. And she was like the Motul fan at Coda last year, and then we've gotten a guy on the fan wall like 3 times in a row, and every single time someone they won up the guy before. That one guy was on, then one guy had the shirt, then one guy was just like bam, the whole logo. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's pretty amazing that, like, somehow the group keeps getting on these things.
I think it's gonna be hard to top the random fan that flashed their ass to
that was
feed.
amazing. Right.
There's always got to be that asshole, right?
Jen also left us a super chat to talk about, or to help with Fabio's tire pressure, which we'll get to in a second. But yeah, Jen just said that's the first time she's been called. Wait, what was it? Wait, her channel wholesome.
It is. Okay. It's so wholesome. It's just like so pleasant. Like, if you just go to it, it's just so pleasant. And then, like, Jen is posting like, isn't this guy handsome? And oh my god, I can't wait for the race. Look at my Fabio shirt. And Remy's texting me at like 3 in the morning. He's like, motherfucker, Rossi got COVID. He's front end feel, losing front end feel, and it's like, ha ha ha. Like, we gotta make memes. We gotta make, like, it was 2 seconds after it was announced, and we had the Gallolosi's Yamaha, but instead of saying go, it just said COVID.
It's the juxtaposition, Kev, that really gets you between those two. Two of the hard.
They're the moderators of our group.
Yeah. So basically, whereas BrotoGP is very bro, Jen is very gentleman and ladylike.
Oh my God, Jen is a Gentile.
All right, let's jump into that topic that Jen brought up for us, though. So Fabio actually had his worst performance of the year at Aragon.
Not scoring points. Yeah, I would say.
First time out of the points. I mean, for having finished a race.
Yeah.
And of course, post race, he blames it on front tire pressure. And there's a bunch of crap about the team and about how whatever, not factory Yamaha. Kind of just maybe throwing a little bit of shade, but not too much. But I distinctly remember this happening previously to Fabio, and I actually think I'm going to go with more than 50% his fault, because I kind of noticed this back at Catalunya. The Petronas Yamahas, him and Morbidelli, when they at Catalunya, we've got the back stretch, right, in the really hard braking zone into that sharp corner.
Yeah.
Compared to both, especially the factory Yamahas, but even a bunch of the other bikes, those two riders slam the front end down. They get on the brakes, the front end drops. It looks like they have very little compression dampening. It just slams all the way down to the bottom.
That's kind of slam the front end down.
Yeah.
But it's just those kind of things have an impact on tire pressure. Like he's given interviews before of like, oh yeah, like the tire pressure got hard, like got really high. I could feel it. I had to slow down a little bit to keep it under control. These are things that the MotoGP racers know about. All the bikes have tire pressure monitors on them. They can look at the data after the fact. They can correlate what they feel on the bike to what they see on the data. So they know when it happens. For what is like definitely one of the best satellite teams and the championship contender to go out there, like there was a bunch of stuff, a bunch of missteps. Maybe the team put in too high of tire pressure. The track temperature seemed to be up a little higher than expected compared to the rest of the weekend, and Fabio was still slamming the front end down. It
So
all resulted in this.
what you're saying is it's riding style. So if it's riding style, if it comes down to that, I mean, other than setting the right tire pressure each and every single time, could it be a suspension setting?
Well, yeah. So that's the thing. Like early in the year, we were wondering like, how the hell is Petronas able to optimize this M1 better than the factory team? If they're running a setup for Fabio and maybe partially for Morbidelli that uses the tires differently, it's going to produce different results. That might have contributed to what we saw earlier in the year. And then, I mean, it just all contributes. It's all a part of the suspension, all a part of the setup. Like, we hear always that like, the factory sets the setup and they only waver by like a millimeter on the ride heights and all that stuff. But I mean, maybe they're allowed to run whatever the hell damping they want in the front end, whatever makes them go fast. We heard from Rossi that he was having to argue with Yamaha to let him develop the bike the way he wanted, instead of running the setup that Fabio and Mav wanted, specifically listing Fabio.
Yep.
So if Fabio already has input in the development of this bike, then we got to assume he can run the setup that he wants on that front end. And if this is one of this could be one of the consequences, a little more temperature in the front end. If the team doesn't optimize for a track that is higher in temperature than the whole rest of the practice sessions, then he has an issue.
Well, then maybe that's one way in which Fabio, in this case, needs to also make a little bit of a change in his riding style. I hate to go back and say that the DNA of the M1 is still tied into Lorenzo, but Lorenzo was never the hard-breaking, late demon on the brakes kind of guy, and that's probably what really suits the M1 most.
Well, and it's kind of, it seems like the entirety of 2020 is like that. The more I look at it, the more I think about it, right? Like Dovizioso, the entire weekend, they were saying that the Ducati is having a hard time keeping heat in the tires because it was freezing cold at Aragon for the majority of the weekend.
Yeah.
Right. Especially in all the morning sessions. What has Dovi been really good at for the past couple of years? Saving the tires at all those tracks that are really hard on tire wear and then attacking in the last couple of laps. Those exact two things are at opposite ends of the spectrum. Like we even knew back in Rossi's days at Ducati, like he would come in after the race and the front tire wouldn't be worn. It means they weren't getting heat in it. Right. So once again, MotoGP is just it's a development. You create a motorcycle around the tires and you try and get the most out of the tires. But because this whole season is so up in arms and so crazy, we're going to tracks at times of the year when we wouldn't normally expect it. Mm-hmm. The weather's different. I mean, I guess the cold and wet at Le Mans is not different. That happens all the time.
But I think whatever data you have from previous seasons, it's almost like
it's
not
exactly what we talked about at the beginning of the season. We talked about this. Like you go to Aragon and you think you've ridden 1,000 laps there and you've been there a million times. You've raced there a ton and you have all this data, but none of that data is nearly as relevant as you think it is.
Yep. I mean, and we actually haven't had a wet race since the middle of 2018 or the end of 2018.
I think Valencia 2018 was what they were saying.
Yeah, so that definitely contributed to Le Mans because the tires, we know that the rear tire is significantly different. Oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't mix up dry and wet tires. But the bikes are different. It's a whole year's worth of development. They got new chassis, they got new motors, they have new electronics. At least the settings, right? Because we're on spec software still. So yeah. All of these things change. You think that your data is worth it. Your previous setups are still good, but the teams are finding they're not, and they're having to improvise more. And that's how you get results like this, where you have the guy in 16th position in the championship with a freaking podium. I love it. It's amazing.
because do you guys remember what I sent you right after the Aragon race this weekend?
That dick pic? No, I had to erase that quick so no one saw it.
It was just, you know what? It's kind of like pandemic fatigue. You know what? I love the inconsistent races and the results, but they leave me so mentally and emotionally drained. Do you guys know what a refractory period is?
In what context?
Post-coital.
Oh shit!
It's the period when after you
there.
blow your wad, where you're not even thinking about sex because you got to recover. This is what the races are doing to me. Every time I watch the races, as soon as it's done, I'm just spent, and I don't have any mental faculty to think about racing whatsoever.
That race is trying to snuggle Dennis, and he's like, "Get off me! I'm too sweaty."
Me. And
right,
I need more than a week
Don't
or
fucking
2 weeks to recover. I need
Dennis,
3-4 weeks to build up my wad again.
Dennis is watching that race and talking so dirty and just screaming and yelling, saying shit he never thought he would say. Alex Marquez is in second. Then he busts his nut and he just doesn't want it. He doesn't want anything
get off
to do with
me. I need
the last
space.
40 minutes. Get away from me. I don't talk like that.
Yeah.
We don't.
We're gonna sleep on separate beds in separate bedrooms.
Dennis loses respect for the race the moment he nutted. That's fucking amazing.
No, I lose respect for it when he wants to keep coming back for more. I'm like, I need recovery. I need an hour, which is 3 weeks in GP time.
Right. What Dennis needs to do is the good old thing that my friend Matt used to say back in the day when he's like, "Are you really missing your ex-girlfriend?" Jerk off and then see if you still want to call it. Dennis needs to give him the old hando 1-2.
I need to be like in a hyperbaric chamber right after each race to kind of like bring the oxygen back, get it up to speed.
I mean, it's related to why we're not recording after every single race too. Like, there's no way we could sustain that. I mean, someone Christian just said.
My point is though is go ahead.
Christian just said Rob ain't got no refractory period. That's how he does all them sex tapes.
Yeah, exactly.
My point is this is why sometimes you just need vanilla. Something that doesn't expend you too much.
My friend Nick. My friend Nick used to, I got a lot of dirty friends from back in the day. My friend Nick used to always say, it doesn't matter like how hot or nasty she is, right? If you have filet mignon for every meal, eventually you just want some chicken nuggets. Like, you don't need some like big extravagant wild thing. Eventually Dennis just wants to go get a Big Mac and some soggy McDonald's fries and the like fountain drink that's weirdly too good for a fountain drink and go home. He doesn't need a big production. He doesn't need the fucking caviar and the filet mignon and the champagne and all that. He just wants some Popeyes. He just wants a poor boy and a fucking Pepsi and go to sleep. He's not trying to make a big production out of it.
And now you know why I still follow World Superbikes and F1.
Brilliant comment from Mahiri Stewart in the chat, and that's why you follow World Superbike.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
That's right.
I can't have that much juxtaposition.
Right. Yeah, missionary Marc Marquez makes it mediocre is pretty much exactly what it is. Meanwhile, AM goes ass to mouth, and I'm just saying. That's why I like him.
Oh wow, we went.
It's been a while since we just went buck wild with all my idiot friends back in the day.
I can't have that much juxtaposition. I can't have Rocky Road with gummy bears in it, and then also vanilla, like with like an hour after each other. So I didn't even watch the Superbike races yet.
Look, how do you figure I go back to sleep after waking up to watch the GP race live? World Superbikes and F1.
Yeah, he watches Johnny Ray. Not super good looking, not really that impressive, but gets the job done. If you brought him home to mom, she'd be like, he's a nice Irish boy. You settle down with Johnny Ray. That's who you settle down with. It's not crazy. It's not wild. You're not getting like wacky with the positions and what you do, but like your refractory period's not that strong because you didn't do some stuff that made you question yourself. Like, oh fuck, I didn't even know I was into that. You know what I mean? Like when Alex Marquez was gonna win, I was like, fucking, I had like a huge bone. I'm like, I didn't even know I liked Alex Marquez. He's making me learn exactly. He's making me learn a few things. I didn't even know I liked a pinky in the butt until Alex Marquez might win a race, and that's not really something I think I even want to know about myself. Theoretically, Johnny Ray and World Superbike don't make you question. They just reinforce the stuff that you know that you like, that it's safe to like.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. I'm fine with that 80% of the time. 20% of the time, you gotta know.
20% of the time, Rob's gotta fuck.
All right,
can we talk about Rins?
Yeah, let's transition to Suzuki and Alex Rins here.
No, actually, I think Suzuki and Rins are two separate issues, and I think Rins...
Are they?
I just enjoy the fact that the person who says "wow" like they're worried about what we're talking about's handle is noxious butt spray. Right, none of us knew we were into Alex Marquez, but now you know it's kind of fucked up. Because now it's like, man, am I going to find someone that gives me that thing that I need every once in a while? Alex Marquez could be that someone.
You've got 14. You've got 14 others on the grid though this year.
I want to feel a little shame though. I want to feel a little shame.
Apparently Taka is the Johnny Ray of MotoGP without all the wins.
Right.
It just comes in sixth the whole season. Okay. Why is Alex Rins a separate topic from Suzuki?
Well, because I feel like Alex Rins, he's Harvey Dent, right? He's like a main character, but you never know which side you're gonna get. Right?
Harvey Dent was literally never a main character.
There's
not Harvey Dent movies.
It depends on which verse you're talking about, right?
Well,
but like the Dark Knight, he's more than a supporting actor.
I think he's the definition of a supporting actor in that movie. But okay, I will completely agree with you. Watching the start of Aragon, I had no clue that Rins or even Mir.
Well, not even that. You just have to look at Le Mans, right? Like you see Rins, he could have won, but yet he yet again crashed out. And so you go into Aragon where he's doing the same shtick, but actually makes it stick. So you just never know what you're gonna get at the end.
I forgot to talk about the strap. Alex Rins' strap.
Right, in Le Mans.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Either way.
Alex Rins. I think, like Alex Rins' crash and mistake in hurting his shoulder was, in a weird way, in my opinion, bigger than Marquez's first crash. Not the second one. He never should have rode. Maybe we'll get into that later. Maybe the greatest mistake in GP history. But Alex Rins, I think a lot of people, myself included, had him pegged as a legitimate title contender. And when I mean legitimate title contender, I mean legitimate title contender in the way we used to think about it before 2020. Like, he could still win it, right? He could have one race and like a podium and been injured and have driving around with a tie down just stuck off the back of his bike, getting ready to go into his chain and all that. But what I mean is, when the season was getting ready to go, before shit went crazy and when Australian wildfires were the worst, most horrifying thing of the year, which, by the way, they were still bad. Like, Alex Rins could have like won a bunch of races, in my opinion, and really challenged Marquez and maybe won. I think he had the package, and then I think he has a package title up sex tape. But I think he really could have won. Like, I'm not surprised at all that he's able to win that race. I think this is a letdown year for him. This was his year to lay claim to the season.
So you think the early kind of lack of results? Well, okay, the early lack of results, first 5-6 races for sure. That shoulder injury from early in the season was just destroyed any chance he had in all those races. Where do you draw the line of like, all right, Alex is now healed up here, and we should expect that sort of performance from him?
Oh, sorry. Dennis apparently has a refractory period from one of my rants, so he had to go away from me for a minute and get some space. He doesn't want to hear me talk right now.
Kev, you can still hear me though, right?
Yes, you're good. I'm just giving you a hard time.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no.
So go ahead.
where are you drawing the line for Rins? Like, where do you say, all right, the injury is done, and we want to see him kind of on the box consistently, and just now.
Yeah.
I mean,
I mean,
from the podium in
it's
Catalunya.
such a compacted season, and we talked about this on our Andre Iannone PED episode, and we've talked about this a lot during the season and on our social media, is that if you get injured this season, it's the recovery period is far more difficult to deal with because compacted races, much less time to heal, more stress in general, just the stress of the world. Like anyone on the chat, like one of us, anyone around here, if you get injured, it could take longer for you to heal just from the ambient background noise stress of the world and all of that. So I only think really now that he's still like, okay, he's back and he's ready to be the Rins we expected. If you injure a shoulder can be a major issue. Look at Ben Spies. Shoulder injuries end up ending his career, and he didn't have catastrophic stuff like Marc Marquez did.
Yeah, actually, someone in the chat brought up that he's probably not actually going to be healed until he gets surgery in the offseason.
Correct. Exactly. Right. He's right. He's riding around it. And I think now he's sort of proven to himself he can go race distance. He can hold on. He can really do well over the period. I expect Rins in the next few races to look really well consistently, which of course probably means he won't because we predicted it, so it'll do terrible. But I've been thinking Rins was a championship contender before this season started, and I don't even think he's out of
it. Should I do the math? Is he out of it?
Sure, do the math.
No, he's not out of it.
No, he's not out of
He's
it.
nowhere close.
Not with 5 rounds.
No.
4.
Right.
4 rounds plus what this season is. Because look at Fabio, right? He just scored no points. He did not crash, and he scored 0 points. Like that could easily happen to Amir. That could easily happen to. I mean, Dovizioso is not out of it, and he's literally been nowhere
again
for almost the whole season.
And again, Binder has wins, and yet Alex Marquez is tied in points with him.
Correct.
So, I mean, anything can happen.
Yeah, Joan Mir 121 points in 10 rounds, so 12 points a round. That's right. That's pretty bad. As far as previous championships have gone, and I wouldn't be surprised if it went down a little bit. I guess we've lost Rossi for the next round. We're coming up to another Aragon. Yeah, I have no idea. I mean, it's just for the entire season, we're finishing at a track that they've never raced GP bikes at. Mm-hmm. Which is it goes through everything that we already talked about.
I think like Kyle Newman brought up that it took over half the season for Marc Marquez to be out of it, but I think it was only last race where he's officially it was only just a couple an event ago where he was actually mathematically out of it.
It took this long, right? That's crazy.
Right. Yeah, title of Rob Suck
which means that maybe I haven't done the math, maybe Tito's not out of it. Nope, nothing. Damn it.
No.
Sad times.
Even though Dennis is literally wearing a Tito shirt.
Yep.
Or Sam Lowe's. You never know. Or,
that's
Jack
not
Miller.
any better. That's
Jack
not
Miller
any better. Right. Or Sam Lowe's. That's not better.
That's true. I just like the colors.
Should have stuck to Tito.
Right.
Okay. So high hopes for Alex Rins moving forward. So it's separate from Suzuki, partially because of the injury. Can we talk about Joan Mir?
Yeah.
Let's do it. So we finally have a new championship leader, and it's
the most consistent. Leading the championship. He's technically correct. The best kind of correct.
Yeah. So the entire season, Kev has been very anti the consistency argument. He's been looking at the results. It said, Kev, you've been taking the technically correct way of looking at consistency. As in, the person at the top of the championship is most consistent by definition. Right. And Dennis has been taking the more emotional route and going based on what he feels watching the races. And they're a lot of juxtaposition. But now, can you two agree?
What the fuck is up with your juxtaposition references?
I don't know.
Shit is crazy.
The second time I said it.
Rob went to an art show or something.
No, word of the week is what it is. It's the word of the week in Rob's calendar.
I said it once and I forgot to stop using it.
Stuck, yeah.
Yeah, it's terrible. Are you going to agree now? that are you both going to agree that Joan Mir is now the most consistent?
not agree to
Joan
agree on
Mir
anything.
is the most consistent rider by definition. He's the most consistent rider because if you add up all his scores, he has the most points, which by definition means most consistent. And the cool thing about math, depending on how you look at things, is math is not conditionally true, it's necessarily true. Based on his finishing positions and everyone else's finishing positions, he could be nothing but the leader. All the numbers that he has done has led up to how many points does he have, Rob?
121.
There's no other way. If you added all those numbers together, they would be anything other than 121. He is the number one by definition. It's necessarily true. It cannot be any other way. What is Rob laughing at? Is there a chat? Is someone just going
No,
off?
I'm just laughing at the fact that you're still able to keep explaining this point. How do you do that? You have a skill.
Because his point is math is like a universal language. You cannot refute math. And math is showing and proving.
No,
that
you
Mir
can
is more
refute
consistent.
it. But if I'm going by like the standard Platonism with a lowercase p version of math, which is like these are necessary truths. They're a priori truths, or as what Kant would call synthetic a priori truths. Like this. That points he has leads the championship under every circumstance of this year because that's all the circumstances that it could be. He is the most consistent by a priori definition. It could be no other way. No, you cannot argue that anyone else is more consistent than him because they have less. Their sum total of their finishes is less.
Kev, do you think these results are going to continue for the rest of the season for Mir?
Yes. I think he's going to win. And I actually thought he was going to win yesterday, but I think he might win Aragon too. I think he's going to get a win. I have a hard time seeing him win the championship without a win.
You're breaking someone's heart. There are a few people in the chat right now that are hoping for a Mir championship without a win.
I don't, because that's the only event where you could put an asterisk next to this season. If someone wins a championship without a win, it's the only thing to delegitimize the championship. It's the only thing. In a year when we have 8 winners, right? We have maybe even more to win the championship without a win.
Yeah.
It's too much. For me, that's the only event that could delegitimize the championship. Like to go to Dennis's like more emotional version of looking at results instead of actually looking at how the world is. But that's the only thing for me that would delegitimize. I really want him to win. If he wins, it's great. I don't know. It's just about time for me to redact my Mir Andrea Dovizioso post. So,
I mean, I feel like a bunch of people are expecting 3 more wins for this season. Paul is expecting
3 more different winners.
Yes.
Oh,
Paul is expecting himself to win.
Hmm.
Jack Miller.
No way Paul wins. Miller's not going to win a race.
I agree.
Alex Marquez and Mir will probably win a race, and no one else will. We'll have 10 winners this year, and it won't be any of those. It might be Alex Marquez or Mir at Aragon. I think we see a new winner at Aragon.
You think that Alex Marquez for the whole rest of the season, the 4 remaining rounds, you think Alex Marquez has a better chance of winning than Paul?
Yes, because he has the better chance of winning in 6 days.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That's where he's going to do it. Just like when Binder, who's tied with him, won because it was at their basically like they had just tested pre-concessions being revoked, all of that stuff. And Miguel win Austria. Like KTM looked really good leading up to Austria because they've been able to test. They've been working on stuff. They had all their concessions, and they've kind of dropped off since. Alex Marquez traditionally goes well at Aragon. The Honda's going better there. Obviously, Marc Marquez won the last 3 years. We saw the graphic they showed 1,000,000 times. And I think he actually has a chance of winning next race. I kind of hope he does, but if he's going to win a race, he could do it at Aragon. And I think he's got a much better than a puncher's chance of winning Aragon.
Damn.
I'm going to take a different take here and say that I think that it's possible that Mir's chance at winning a race may have been in the earlier rounds before Rins started to come back to form, started getting closer to 100%, if not at 100%. So I think now more than ever, it's actually going to be pretty hard for Mir to win while Rins is on grid. That's my take on the Suzuki camp.
Yeah, I guess the argument is if a Suzuki's going to win, is it going to be Rins or Mir? Can Mir outride Rins when things are going well for the Suzuki? It's a good question.
For both of them, yeah. For both of them, yeah.
I mean, like I brought up at the start of kind of the Suzuki chat, I was surprised that both of them were anywhere close to the top 5 after the first lap. Like, that's something we've seen.
Rins' start was fucking crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was a hell of a start. I mean, sometimes you ride on the money and he got it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so and that's been the inconsistency out of Suzuki all year, right? Is qualifying and then starts. Like, they do have a launch device. I think Simon said that he liked it better than some of the other factories, especially I think he compared it to the Yamaha one. So that helps. But if they go back to their normal ways of shit qualifying, that's what's going to prevent, and has probably already prevented, the Suzuki from winning more than one race earlier this season. And it might just be more of the same. And if that happens, then there you go, Kev. Then maybe we pencil in Alex Marquez. Even though, of course, now that we said it, neither of them are going to win a race. So.
Right, exactly.
BrotoGP bad predictions. If you want something not to happen, ask us to predict it.
Except for when I said Marc Marquez will be out for the whole season, and that COVID was going to run rampant and like mess the entire season up, and everyone acted like I was crazy, and then we were totally right about that. It kind of sucks that I'm only right about the actual real things.
Kev, the Red Menace wants to know, did your cat and your truck get fixed?
The truck has been fixed. It's good. It's running. Thank you very much, everyone, for the super chats last recording. It made a huge difference. Buster has not been fixed, but the plan is in motion. He has to get blood work, and then he's getting the teeth out, but it's all planned. It's all taken care of. He's doing well. He seems to be perfectly fine. So he's getting his blood work next week, and then he gets the reabsorbed teeth removed the week after. So he'll be a sad boy, but he'll be a happier boy long term. Yes, thank you for asking.
After that, we'll get him a shirt that says Super Cat with H in parentheses.
Correct.
I get it.
Got it.
I feel like we could do that.
You got to see it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, right. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if you could already buy that one. We don't have to make it.
BrotoGP Etsy, yo.
Nice.
We have a web store. We don't need an Etsy. We don't have to give them. Speaking of shirts, quick update. I have them all. I am packaging them, and they will start shipping out this week. It is currently Monday, October 19th. If you pre-ordered a Mega Rossi shirt, they're coming.
And can I just say that I'm glad that I did not wear my bro tank like Rob did, because I was wanting to. That would have been too much BGP skin on screen, yo.
Should have worn mine.
Yeah.
Can there be such things?
There can be. I know.
All right. Yes, Sully. Everyone needs a Buster shirt. I don't know about putting cats on shirts. Maybe one of these days. Maybe a cat calendar, though.
I got cats on my socks. I got Buster socks on right now. I is hungry, can't has bacon. I'm literally wearing cat socks right now.
Who made those for you? I forget.
No one made these. They just I got them for a present. These ones didn't come in the mail or didn't get made. Yeah.
Oh, I got you. All right. Any final thoughts on MotoGP? I feel like we got to transition to other championships slightly here, real quick. Nope. All right.
I mean,
we're doing it.
I guess my only thoughts is, we could do episode, but one of the things that happened with Alex Marquez was making his charge towards the podium. Was they had that video of the guys at home, including Marc Marquez and the family, and a lot of people were focused on Marc Marquez's straight up nutty haircut. But if you looked at his right arm, obviously you saw some massive atrophy. And I had a conversation with my friend Josh today, who's a physio, who's kind of reinforced some of the stuff I've said, opened my eyes to other things, and then corrected me on some stuff. Obviously, I'm not trained in it, but he talked about that when you see Mark moving his right arm versus his left arm, there's some telltale signs he's having some major problems. We saw some pictures a week or two ago of him working out, and it looked like he literally had half of a delt. With his delt looks significantly atrophied. Like he's literally missing half his delt. He's so out of balance, or as Josh put it, he's as lopsided as his title wins. Which is like sort of a cool way to make joke. And I'm not making fun of him because this is an actual medical condition. I don't want him to be in any pain and suffering or suffer any debilitating effects. But I think you are seeing the end of him in what we think of Marquez. His right arm not only is atrophied out of its mind, but you kind of have to have an eye for this thing, but if you watch the way he celebrates, anytime he lifts his arm up, he has to lift up and out, and it's working super weird. He has to abduct his elbow every time he raises his right arm, which is telltale signs that lateral and anterior delts aren't working correctly or in conjunction at all. So he's kind of like, he has to go out to go up. He can't raise. He's never raising forward correctly. He's abducting his delt the whole time. Not a good sign, because it all lines up with the biggest problem we talked about was the posterior fracture being surgically repaired. The number one worry is atrophy, and the secondary worry that they had to take a plate that was damaged and screwed and they couldn't insert a rod because of worry about previous injuries, is that he may have any potential nerve damage or atrophy damage from that. The question is he that atrophied and having problems with movement because it's been so isolated and not moving it to prevent any damage with the plate? Or is it the other side? Is the atrophy and all that from the fact that he can't move it reliably and as consciously? And I know this because I actually had some nerve injury. You guys might remember it a while ago, 18 months ago, 2 years ago. I actually recorded where I was in absolute agony and I was like on painkillers in the recordings. And because I had a neck injury that gave me some atrophy, but one of the things it did was just completely deflated the right on the front of my delt and the top of my pec, and my arm didn't work right. It was hard to explain, but washing my hair was super hard, not because it was physically demanding, but that simply things weren't working right. And it was when I saw that video of Marquez, I literally had flashbacks of, oh fuck, I know exactly what's going on. His arm is not working right.
And that was from nerve damage that created muscle atrophy.
Yes, because what happens is it's just not flexing. I still had a hard time now flexing my upper pec. I'm really out of balance. I can flex the whole the middle and the side, but I had to teach myself to reflex my pec. So you get atrophy because it's never working. So when I was washing my hair, right, my front delt was atrophied because even though my arm was moving around and doing stuff, the delt wasn't doing it. It was every other thing overcompensating. And I tore my rotator cuff in the process because the rotator cuff atrophied so much. I ended up tearing I'm a fucking 80-year-old man, right? I tore my rotator cuff, and you try to look up medical information on tearing your rotator cuff under the age of 60, it's impossible to find.
Rock climber forums.
Right, exactly. So anyway, right, that's a good point. So anyway, I guess my final thoughts on MotoGP before we switch over is that I think when you look at what's going to happen with Marc, there's a lot more going on there than they've talked about.
And a lot more than they've told the announcers.
Who are maybe he's coming back next race. No, man.
Yeah, because they told him 6 months ago, before coronavirus happened, that it was that he was gonna come back in Aragon 1, and it didn't happen. So now it's Aragon 2.
Right. It's not happening. Right.
The video was kind of painful to watch. I've had imbalances before just from breaking things and from atrophy, but never nerve damage. You could probably see the scar on my collarbone on the left here and my left forearm as well. And things are definitely wonky. When you immobilize something for weeks at a time, it then can take weeks at a time to get it back to anything normal. And that was without nerve damage and without even worse atrophy. We don't know exactly what he's going through, just kind of speculating on what we can see based on another person's educated opinion. Someone asked
and again, obviously it's all, and we'll wind this down and get to Parrish here in a second, but obviously that's all purely observational, and I actually hope I'm wrong on all of those things. I don't want, it was mentally debilitating I can't imagine for someone like Marc Marquez, who's made his entire living and essentially his entire identity out of the ability to physically perform, suddenly not being able to perform. Probably, he can't get up and cheer for his brother correctly. You know what I mean?
And I think if the
big blow.
If the question is if he's going to be back or not, we just don't want him to, because we want him to do it right as far as the recovery. there's nothing to it to come back this season at all. So just do your recovery right and then come back even stronger next season, however that's going to be.
The risk reward ratio ain't there, because if you're atrophied that far, the structure to protect things is that much lower, and a crash, a fall, a lean, a save something on your right shoulder, but the structure's not there. That is literally how I tore my rotator cuff. I was doing some grappling practice with a friend and fell weird, but it was so atrophied that my rotator cuff just went ping, because everything was just deflated. I looked like Rob on one side and then me on the other side.
That'd be a bad look.
Yeah, it
That's
was
a very
bad,
bad
dude.
look. I can Photoshop that, but it would be really, really bad.
You don't need
a
to
much
Photoshop
smaller
that.
person than Kevin.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, we'll of course talk about Marquez again in this injury. Hopefully with better news. But yeah, I don't expect him to race. I do expect him to return to form sometime next season.
Yeah.
So, and by
Me
form, maybe not, like, I mean, I guess I hope not dominating championships to make the whole championship boring, but at least like winning races, and being Marc Marquez.
He'd still be the goalpost, so to speak,
Yeah, exactly. I don't know if I'd say I expect that to happen, but I want it to happen.
Yes.
All right. So we got a super chat up there asking to talk about MotoAmerica. So this is a transition that maybe not everyone has heard about. And it's got to start with Joe Roberts. So Joe Roberts is currently racing for the American racing team in Moto2, titled appropriately, whose sole purpose seems to be to bring Americans into the international championship. And I mean, we interviewed Josh Herron years ago now at this point about his entry into Moto2, and it was a very difficult road for him. And he had quite a few disadvantages, and it ended up with him leaving the championship kind of without the results that I don't know if I'd say we expected, but that definitely not the ones that he wanted.
Right.
And at the time, he was Johan Zarco's teammate, and Zarco went on to do Zarco things.
Right.
So Joe Roberts has been over there for I think is his 4th year in Moto2 full time. He's been up and down on, like, he was on the 3rd constructor in Moto2 that I can't remember the name. I think a Japanese manufacturer of chassis. He then got on the KTM in the year that the KTM kind of became the shit bike. And then this season, he's on the Kalex again with American Racing and has had results. He 4th place at the first round, 3rd place now. He's now leaving that team and he's moving over to Italtrans, who is a well-known Moto2 team. And in doing so, his seat
opened up the seat.
Yep. So for Cameron Beaubier. So there's our hard transition to MotoAmerica. We're not going to get to Superbike results very much for MotoAmerica until later in the year, until GP's over. But it's finally happening. Cam B is leaving MotoAmerica and going to an international championship.
Well, I mean, it's all but done, right? I mean, like Kev said with Rossi and Petronas, until it's signed, it's not signed.
I mean, Road Racing World announced it, and they're generally like, Road Racing World is still the kind of people that won't let you copy paste off their website because they think it's like 2004 and we're going to steal their content. So if they like reported it, they had their actual hardcore sources for it. But what's interesting is we talked about a couple of years ago, like, fuck, are we going to get any Americans? And now we've got Joe Roberts on a good team, Cam coming in, and Garrett Gerloff in World Superbike looking great, ending the season on a pretty high note. Couple of podiums, bad crash in the last one, but Gerloff looking like he definitely took the next step. Like, things are looking up for the American squad after there was definitely some worry about it. In the meantime, we have Zanetti come over and look really good, get a win. We're having Canepa come to Laguna Seca. Like, maybe we're going to start to get that, the cross, like influx. Some Americans are leaving. It's opened up. Some people thinking they could come here. If they come here, they have success, which legitimizes it even more. I'm definitely excited. I think the Cam move is a little... I was like, oh, fuck. Like, when I first heard the rumor, I'm like, there's no way that's happening. There's no way that's happening. But
I thought exactly the same thing. Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think it's happening. kind of like with you guys, I'm not completely sold on the idea.
Oh, I'm not sold on the idea at all. It's fucking crazy.
Yeah.
But just crazy enough to work.
I mean, I am slightly like my excitement is tempered a little bit because for Cam to leave the American Championship, I feel like the talent level in America is going to dip just a little bit.
Mhm.
And kind of this is like Zanetti coming to Indy with the full factory Ducati and Ducati Corsa engineers in his garage, on a team who supported PJ Jacobson until PJ got injured, and it obviously has the financial means to build a superbike program quickly, which is shocking, especially in America. Like him to come over, get great results. I'm like, oh damn, like maybe American racing isn't as tits as I thought it was, because he beat Cam. You know, Cam had a rough weekend. Technical
Yeah.
problems with the bike. The IMU
Right.
was busted. Like went out in the second race, the first race of Sunday, and had no laps, like just one sighting lap on the bike. Rough weekend. But Zanetti still won a freaking race.
Podium
Like,
the first race.
yeah. So to do that, I'm like, all right, like we need those Europeans to come over. We need more money in the sport, build the level up. Cam stays here is the measuring stick is unfortunately the journeyman that we'd have, and just shows us how legitimate MotoAmerica could be. Now he's leaving, and I'm like, all right, who's going to come over, take over? Is the talent level going to dip a little bit, and we're just going to not know what anyone in MotoAmerica
It's
can
going to
do?
rise. Because now everyone's just like we saw in GP this year, where the moment everyone realized they could win and they're not settling for fifth or fourth on a good day, or maybe a podium if everything works out perfectly. Now they see a win if everything works out perfectly. Now they can like get that win or get those string of podiums that eluded them so far. I think everyone's going to take a step forward because everyone's going to be that much hungrier. Everyone's going to see the carrot is a little bit closer to everyone than it used to be, and it's going to make them ride that much harder. I think the talent level is going to rise. I think you're going to see people take like a step forward in results now that there's some like it seems possible.
I mean, I guess, and the cool thing is too, right? If we get the other side of it, like Canepa coming over, Zanetti racing here, like if there are more European talent coming to the championship, then it will force everyone to raise their game anyway, right?
Right.
We'll
It
have
forced Cam to raise his game when Tony showed up.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, I mean, Tony did us a great service because he really was. He seemed to be the first one in this era of American Superbike racing that did exactly that. And the second he did it, everyone else was looking at it. It's like, all right, is it possible? And now we're at the position where teams like Westby Racing are able to hire Nicolo Canepa to come over just for one round. Like it's something that wouldn't have happened years ago. Like, yeah, we had Tony here, but we didn't have flyover replacement riders. I mean, we had Valentin Debise as well in the Supersport Championship, and I mean he's doing things in the French Superbike Championship now, and he was a replacement rider in World Superbike. But it's just we just need more of that. I hope we're going to get some exponential growth out of this, right? Tony was the slow start to everything, and now that we have more riders, it's going to take off.
It's interesting that you guys are talking about the state of MotoAmerica in light of this, because my reluctance with Cam going to Moto2 is about that, about American road racing, and my reluctance with Cam going to Moto2 has nothing to do with Cameron Bobier's talents or skills. So like, Moto2 is not the world championship you want to go into, like first thing. And
not with expectations. Like Joe Roberts didn't go over there like reigning Superbike champion, gonna show him what's up. Like Joe Roberts went over there as like young Superstock champion and just built him up. Cam's already a little old for Moto2 to be a rookie in that class.
And the last guy that we sent to Moto2 is a Superbike champion, Josh Herron, which I thought, not really to his doing per se solely, but it really did do a lot of damage in American road racing. But if Cam can't produce the results, which may not be in his control because there's a lot of factors to it, but he is a multi and consecutive Superbike American road racing champion. So if the results aren't there, if American road racing was disregarded, before now, it could be completely forgotten.
I think that's balanced though by Gerloff, and here's why. You have if Gerloff can continue to do well like he did this year, I think he will. You have the counterbalance. If Cam doesn't do well, you can say yes, but prototype. Whereas we all race production series in America, and our junior series are all like stock productions, and then there's modified productions. And Gerloff doing well in World Superbike shows that it's just because like it really is two different kinds of riding. Learning to ride a stock bike is total. Learning to excel on a street bike based race bike is different than learning to excel on like a prototype frame. And we could say that it's also proven because Johnny Ray does so well and dominates 6 years straight now, and you have really good prototype riders like Bautista and Redding come in, but still not quite who still fail at the very end of what their expectations were. So there's a built-in safety, right, of that if Cam goes and gets fucked over by Moto2, the refractory period for all of us to reflect on is that Gerloff's doing okay, and Cam doesn't suck. It's just that he's riding a prototype, not a production bike, and it's a different skill set.
I think Joe Roberts is also showing that you can't just 1 or 2 years and out. Right? It's not a championship that you can jump into and expect to do amazing right off the bat.
You gotta put in the time, right?
Yeah. So I mean, Cam seems like a very, very intelligent motorcycle racer. I can't imagine that he's going to have the expectations that he's going to go into this championship, learn a brand new bike on brand new tires on what are effectively brand new racetracks.
But if I ask you guys, which would you rather? Where we are right now, we're Gerloffs and World Superbikes, and then Cam Beaubier heading to Moto2, or if the roles reversed, where we got Beaubier going into World Superbikes and Gerloff going into Moto2, which one would have made more sense?
I mean, Gerloff's younger. How much younger is Gerloff? Gerloff has more time.
And I guess less behind him as far as expectations than, say, Cameron Beaubier.
Yeah, I mean, Beaubier going to Moto2, I don't really think one expectations or one or the other it's just that other than Gerloff had been a 600 champion, but I don't think that's really relevant in Moto2 right away. So much of it is adapting to that crazy grid, the fact that it's just a nightmare amount of bikes, and that if you're not 8th, you could be 18th. That middle ground of Moto2 is just an absolute meat grinder, and I think it can really be an abyss. It can be an abyss. It can be a total mind fuck, right? Yeah. And I don't think the Superbike paddock is as shady. There's not as much weirdness going on.
Not as political as what you're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You're not seeing as much riders get sacked right away. I don't know. They still are.
Somehow it still finds Lowe's getting a good seat, so maybe there's a little bit of political thing to it.
Yeah, there's a ton of political, but yeah, exactly. But what I mean is just I think there's some weird interplay going on between teams and teammates in Moto2 more so than World
Absolutely.
Superbike.
I mean, you talk about BrotoGP versus Wholesome, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right. What is Rob reading right now?
Sorry, just something in the chat there. Of course, someone got to bring up is why does everyone think that MotoAmerica is on the verge of collapse?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, my answer for that is always that unfortunately the optics aren't as good as people's expectations. It's always what it is. Everyone we
look at Rob get all despondent and serious. Fuck.
We always have these memories of how good something was. Right. And you always want it to be like that. But this has been a rebuilding time for American superbike racing. I want 20 superbikes on the grid from 20 or from 10 well-funded teams. But we don't have it. We got to bring in more talent. We got to bring in more money. I mean, I was talking to motorcycle racing marketing and sponsorship to the guy that prints our digital print shirts. He worked for Red Bull years ago. So he knows something, or he knows what they were doing for marketing. And motorcycle racing is just selling motorcycle parts to people that have motorcycles. But all the success, like the successful championships don't seem to do that, right? Like Tony Luthi was sponsored by the Yellow Pages in Moto 2.
Right.
Could you like it'd be like being sponsored by like QuickBooks or something. Like let me go talk to a huge American corporation, someone with butt tons of money, and see if they'll sponsor my motorcycle team. Like that's that step that we need to take in motorcycle racing to really get the money here, all those people in. If we just keep if we keep just asking Cycle Gear for sponsorship, they go, well, motorcycles aren't really selling that great. Like we're not selling that many parts, so I can't really give you that much money, but I'll help. And like it's great what they do, like, but more, we just need more. Like we haven't reached that critical point where motorcycle racing can take back off in America. Like, I mean, I'm sure Kyle Lyman would love to have a teammate so that he could do more development on that motorcycle. I'm sure HSBK Ducati, right, is digging real hard to pay for that new Ducati V4R that they got from Ducati Corsa, and they would love to have 2 or 3 of them. Right? Like I'm sure M4 would love to hire another engineer directly from Suzuki Japan to get Tony further ahead in the results. And look what happened. Like Cam had a bad weekend at Indy, and the races were the best they've been all year because everyone else, to Kev's point, the talent was able to kind of step up and the races were good. But when that doesn't happen, you end up with like a Johnny Ray World Superbike weekend, and everyone's
Which
like,
isn't good for anyone. Right.
Yeah, it's not good for anyone.
I mean, they look back with like rose-colored glasses, right? You think back, oh, I won a bunch of really well-funded. We had that in 2005 and 6 and in 7, and it was still so terrible that basically DMG bought and tried to completely revamp the series, right? And that was despite having well-funded teams, a Parts Unlimited Ducati factory team. Neil Hogston was riding, Eric Boschman was riding, factory Honda. Yoshimura was a real factory team, and the rate, other than Jake Zemke getting that one race, it was still dominated by just Mladen and Spies, and it ruined it to the point that they felt the need to sell and completely revamp the series so strongly they attempted to make Daytona Superbike the actual most prestigious race,
sport bike,
right? Or
yeah, the 600
Daytona Sport Bike, yeah.
With that, right? With the weird name attached to it that no one knew what the hell it was because it didn't follow any convention from anyone else.
Right. So what was weird is it doesn't really matter how many well-funded teams there are and how like much talent is there if the same 2 guys win every race, or in MotoAmerica's account, nearly the same guy. Cam leaving will be better for the series, and it'll be an influx of interest and prestige because at the very least it's going to make a bunch of guys think now is my chance, while a bunch of fans go, I wonder who's going to do it.
Well, and it's better for it's better for the racers in that regard, but it also gives them another carrot, right? I do good, right. I win a couple of Superbike championships in America, and if I do it young enough or I do it with enough pull, I can go to Europe and try and compete there as well. Right. It's just
which is obviously everyone's dream. When we always talk about, like, if you want to get to Europe, you got to have your 12-year-old who rides a 125 or a 250 Moto3 bike has to be in Europe now. Well, maybe not. If a couple of guys can go over and do respectable, I think Gerloff is our actual biggest hope. Personally.
Yeah, it's. I mean, and Gerloff, we don't have to wait 2 more years to maybe see the results from Gerloff. Like Gerloff is doing something now for that. And then, I mean, other people are bringing up in the chat about viewership, right? I think MotoAmerica is doing an amazing job with getting the content out there, making sure the content is quality. Like, and I'm not talking about the racing. I mean, the production value, like interviews, like live streaming, having so much content that you can just flood people's, I mean, the endless death feeds. They're getting that content out there. They're building the viewers, and that is actually going to make it easier for all the teams to attract the sponsorships that I brought up 5 minutes ago.
It's like Eric just said on the super chat. It's like it's chicken or the egg, right? You've got to get more viewers. You get more viewers by having a good product. A good product gets more viewers, yada, yada, yada. We do know that the new television deal and streaming deal has gotten them much more viewers, something to the effect of like tripled their viewership from previous year. So the drag part is we tripled their viewership and had a less interesting championship. But with now a bunch of people have seen like, oh, okay, like I kind of like this, but maybe it could have been better. Well, that guy's leaving, so now what? It's like they used to say back about Howard Stern back in the day that like the people that liked him listened for a certain amount of time, and the people that hated him listened for even longer because they wanted to see what happens next. And that's like the big thing for MotoAmerica next year is what's going to happen next. There's probably more intrigue and storylines and drama with MotoAmerica starting next year than any year in the past few, or any year for a while. This is the true, like, there's going to be a new champion. We know this for a fact. Like what, and a bunch of Europeans, a couple of Europeans are going to have come over and shown that you can do well. Is anyone else going to follow in that, follow suit? I think next year is the most exciting year for MotoAmerica in a long time because streaming deal that's proven to get more fans watching and proven to work and be reliable and more intrigue on the track.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so it's been a slow build, but they're still working forward. Like I feel like when people ask about like MotoAmerica collapsing, it's also just when you look at that stuff on the surface. Like I've been very positive about everything they've been doing for a couple of years, but you have to look at a couple of years, right? It's consistent growth, and it's still growing. Like I want to get back to
it's
that
still growing. Title of Rob Sextate.
I'm gonna get back to that championship.
And Kev having to finish soon is also Kevin's title.
Yeah.
Oh man, we've been here a while, guys.
Almost 2 hours.
Yeah, it's almost 2 hours. Actually, we just hit an hour and 45. I think it's 1 minute longer than our previous longest ones.
Forced.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, I think I'm gonna call it. That's our final thoughts on MotoAmerica there. I'm sorry we didn't actually really talk about Joe Roberts very much there. Didn't they start the race without him?
Yeah.
Well, there's too much to talk about. But I'll tell you this. What we are going to talk about is the fucking, when we come back on the next episode, is the bagger race.
Word.
I'm jacked out of my mind for that thing.
I'm gonna have fanny packs on me for the episode.
And what's crazy is he always does have fanny packs on all the time because Dennis is the most daddest dad you've ever known to dad.
Right.
Yeah, Laguna Seca is coming up for MotoAmerica. We're gonna have to sync up with Kyle again. The bagger race. Oh man, I watched some of the vintage race from Indy, or not the race. I watched some of the vintage practice, and that was no. I'm not gonna go there. Yeah, no, we'll do that. We have more GP. We have 4 GP rounds left. We owe you some World Superbike Gerloff content. We're gonna talk about the bagger race and get more into MotoAmerica. You're gonna get your shirts in the mail sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
Hey,
it's all gonna happen. All right, everyone. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you need legal representation, please give Riders Law a call. That's RIDERZLAW.com. Their website is not riderslaw.com, like this shirt behind me says. But
that's
if you
cool
go
website
there
on its own, though.
If you go there, you may be surprised about something, which we'll probably talk about within the next month because court cases are going to go down for people that do drugs apparently or don't. And God, I don't even know where to go from here, but yeah, we'll catch you in like a week or two. Thanks for hanging out with us.